Did you know that in 1100 AD, a city in what is now southern Illinois was larger than the city of London, and that the mound at its center still stands today, with a base larger than the Great Pyramid of Giza, or that the deadliest single-vessel maritime disaster in American history happened not on an ocean or a sea, but in a Chicago river 20 feet deep, 20 feet from the dock, on a Tuesday morning in July, and that the ship never moved an inch? In the summer of 1915, a ship full of Czech-Bohemian factory workers and their families, people who woke up that morning thinking they were going to a company picnic, died in 20 minutes in a river 20 feet deep. The ship never moved. 22 families lost every member they had. And for over a century, the rest of America has walked past the marker without reading it. That story is at the end of this video. We're counting down 25 facts about Illinois that will completely change how you see the land of Lincoln. Most people think they know this state. Nobody stops long enough to find the fault, the mound, the monster, or the ship. Coming in at number 25, the mountains Illinois wasn't supposed to have. In the far southern corner of this state, inside the Shawnee National Forest in Saline County, there are sandstone formations that rise more than 570 feet above the valley floor. Camel Rock, Anvil Rock, Devil's Smokestack. These are Pennsylvanian-era formations documented by the Illinois State Geological Survey at approximately 320 million years old, laid down when the first insects were evolving wings, 60 million years before the first dinosaur. They belong visually in Utah or the Colorado Plateau. They are not supposed to be in Illinois. The U.S. Forest Service manages them. They are there tonight, still eroding, still unmistakably extraordinary, and still largely unknown to the 34 states that share a country with them. Every person who has ever described Illinois as flat has not driven south far enough. Fact 24, the fault beneath the corn. Here's what Hollywood never told you about earthquakes and the American interior. The most seismically dangerous region between the coasts is not in California. Southern Illinois sits within the primary damage zone of two separate fault systems, the New Madrid Seismic Zone and the Wabash Valley Seismic Zone. The 1968 Wabash Valley earthquake, magnitude 5.4, centered near Dale in Hamilton County, was felt across 23 states. The New Madrid sequence of 1811 and 1812 produced three events, the USGS estimates at 7.5 to 8.0. Earthquakes that reversed sections of the Mississippi River, created Reelfoot Lake, and caused ground liquefaction across 50,000 square miles. USGS National Seismic Hazard Maps currently assign a 25 to 40% probability of a magnitude 6.0 or greater New Madrid event within the next 50 years. The fault is active tonight. California gets the earthquake fear. Illinois gets the earthquake. Landing at number 23, the trees that were old when Columbus sailed. Every year, in the Cache River State Natural Area in Johnson and Pulaski counties in southern Illinois, bald cypress trees, documented by the Illinois Department of Natural Resources, stand at estimated ages exceeding 1,000 years, the oldest living organisms in the state. The Nature Conservancy jointly protects more than 14,000 acres of this bottomland. The Ramsar Convention designated the watershed a wetland of international importance in 1996. The oldest trees in the Cache River Basin were alive when Genghis Khan was building his empire. Their root structures extend above the waterline in formations that make the swamp look like Louisiana, not the Midwest. It is 3 hours south of Chicago. It costs nothing to visit. Almost nobody outside the state has been told to go. A tree standing in Illinois has been alive since the Crusades began. You can stand next to it today. At number 22, 259 men who did not come up. On November 13, 1909, at the St. Paul Coal Company mine, number 2 in Cherry, Bureau County, a bundle of hay bales caught fire from an open oil torch 300 feet underground. The mine operator failed to halt operations after the initial fire report. 259 miners died. The fire burned for 7 months. 21 men survived a second entrapment by sealing themselves in tunnels for 8 days with nearly no air. The The U.S. Bureau of Mines documented the disaster in full. Cherry had a population of approximately 1,000 people. 1 in 4 residents died that afternoon. 2 years later, the Illinois legislature passed the first workers' compensation law in the United States, a law that became the model for the national system every American worker now depends on. The state that gave America its first workers' compensation law did it because a coal company had already burned 259 families into legislation. Coming in at number 21, the city that was bigger than Chicago. In 1839, on the banks of the Mississippi River in Hancock County, Illinois, Joseph Smith founded the city of Nauvoo. By 1844, according to the LDS Church History Library and the Illinois State Historical Society, its population had reached approximately 12,000. Chicago's population at that moment was 8 to 10,000. On June 27, 1844, Joseph Smith was murdered at the Carthage Jail in Carthage, Hancock County, Illinois. Brigham Young organized an exodus of 12,000 people westward in February 1846. The Nauvoo Temple was completed, then burned by an arsonist in 1848 and destroyed by a tornado in 1850. The LDS Church rebuilt it on the exact original footprint in 2002. Nauvoo's current population is approximately 1,100. The city that became Salt Lake City started on the Mississippi River in Illinois, and when they left, it was bigger than Chicago. At number 20, the man who was buried in concrete. George Pullman built an entire city on Chicago's south side between 1880 and 1884, 1,700 structures housing 8,000 workers. He owned the housing, the utilities, the company store, and the church. Workers paid rent directly to their employer. The Pullman strike of 1894 paralyzed rail traffic across 27 states. President Grover Cleveland deployed 12,000 federal troops to break it. 13 strikers were killed. Eugene V. Debs went to prison. When Pullman died in 1897, his estate buried him in a lead-lined, steel-reinforced coffin, encased in a full cube of concrete reinforced with railroad ties at Graceland Cemetery, because his attorneys were genuinely afraid workers would dig him up. That is in the cemetery records. The original worker housing is still standing and occupied tonight. When George Pullman died, his estate buried him in a lead-lined coffin inside a full cubic yard of concrete, reinforced with railroad ties, because they were genuinely afraid his former employees would dig him up. We are not asking anything like that from you. Subscribe to this channel. It is free, it requires no excavation, and absolutely nobody on this team is getting encased in anything, unlike George Pullman. Fact 19, the riot that became every country's holiday except this one. Here's what Hollywood never told you about May Day. It did not come from European socialism. It came from a Chicago street on May 4th, 1886. During a labor rally at Haymarket Square, an unknown person threw a dynamite bomb into a line of police officers. 7 officers and 4 civilians died. 8 anarchists were convicted. 4, Albert Parsons, August Spies, George Engel, and Adolf Fischer, were hanged on November 11, 1887. 3 years later, the International Socialist Congress in Paris designated May 4th as International Workers' Day specifically to commemorate the Haymarket executions. May 1 is now observed as a national labor holiday in more than 80 countries. The Haymarket Martyrs Monument at Forest Home Cemetery in Forest Park, Illinois, is a national historic landmark. 80 countries celebrate a holiday every May 1st because of what happened on a Chicago street in 1886. The country where it happened observes a different day instead. Landing at number 18, the massacre where Chicago now stands. On August 15, 1812, at the location of present-day Michigan Avenue and Wacker Drive in Chicago, 52 people were killed, including 12 children, in what National Archives War of 1812 records document as the Fort Dearborn Massacre. U.S. soldiers and settlers had been ordered to evacuate Fort Dearborn by General William Hull, who issued the order without securing safe passage from Allied Potawatomi leaders. The convoy was ambushed less than 2 miles from the fort by a force estimated at 500 warriors. Hull's failure is documented in his subsequent court-martial proceedings. a bronze memorial tablet has been embedded in the sidewalk at 401 South Michigan Avenue since 1931. It sits on one of the most photographed blocks in the United States. Chicago began with a massacre. The marker is in the sidewalk. Nobody stops. At number 17, the trial where everyone went home free. Robert Paul Prager was a German immigrant coal miner in Collinsville, Madison County, Illinois. On April 4, 1918, a mob of approximately 500 men accused him of making pro-German statements. Local police had placed him in the city jail for his own protection. The mob dragged him out, wrapped him in an American flag, marched him to the edge of town, and lynched him. 11 men were tried for murder in Edwardsville. After 45 minutes of deliberation, all 11 were acquitted. One juror told reporters, "Well, I guess nobody can say we aren't loyal." That statement is in the court record. President Wilson publicly condemned the lynching. Congress failed to pass anti-lynching legislation. The Collinsville Herald documented the entire trial. Nobody went to prison. A man was lynched in Illinois in 1918. 11 men were tried. Nobody was convicted. The jury said they were just being loyal. Coming in at number 16, the city at the end of everything. Cairo, Illinois, sits at the precise confluence of the Ohio and Mississippi rivers, the southernmost point of the state. Ulysses S. Grant received his first significant Union command here in August 1861, as documented in his own memoirs. The city was the primary staging ground for the entire Western theater of the Civil War. Its population peaked at 15,000 in the 1920s. In May 2011, the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers deliberately detonated the Birds Point New Madrid floodway levee in Missouri, flooding 130,000 acres of Missouri farmland, specifically to divert floodwaters and protect Cairo. Cairo's 2020 census population was 1,721, and it is still losing people. The Magnolia Manor Mansion from 1872 is still standing tonight. The Army Corps of Engineers flooded 130,000 acres of Missouri in 2011 to save this city. It now has 1,721 people. It is still losing them. Fact 15, 300,000 birds, and nobody sold a ticket. Every winter, at the Horseshoe Lake Conservation Area in Alexander County, southern Illinois, up to 300,000 Canada geese descend on a single lake. The Illinois Department of Natural Resources manages the site. The North American Waterbird Conservation Plan documents that the Mississippi Flyway, running the full length of Illinois, carries approximately 40% of all North American migratory waterfowl seasonally. The Shawnee National Forest hosts one of the largest concentrations of overwintering bald eagles in the lower 48 states. 300,000 geese on a single body of water create a sound audible for more than a mile. During mass takeoffs, the flock briefly obscures the sky. This occurs on a documented seasonal schedule. It is free. Almost nobody outside Illinois has been told to go see it. 300,000 geese, one lake, every winter. Almost nobody goes. Landing at number 14, the canyons carved in 10,000 years, and the women found at the bottom. Starved Rock State Park in LaSalle County contains 18 canyons carved by glacial meltwater during the retreat of the Laurentide ice sheet approximately 14,000 years ago. The Illinois State Geological Survey has documented their walls as St. Peter sandstone approximately 450 million years old. Some canyons reach over 100 feet deep. In March 1960, 3 women from Riverside, Illinois, Mildred Lindquist, Lillian Oding, and Frances Murphy, were found bludgeoned to death inside one of those canyons near the Starved Rock Lodge. Chester Otto Wager, a 21-year-old dishwasher at the lodge, was convicted in November 1960. He maintained his innocence for over 60 years. He was paroled in March 2020 at age 80, the longest prison term in Illinois history at that time. DNA testing was inconclusive. He died in 2024, still maintaining his innocence. The canyons are 450 million years old. The case is 64 years old. Neither one has been fully closed. At number 13, the cow that did not do it. Here's what Hollywood never told you about the Great Chicago Fire. The most repeated cause in American school history was invented. The story attributing the October 1871 fire to Catherine O'Leary's cow kicking over a lantern was published by reporter Michael A. Hearn of the Chicago Evening Journal within days of the disaster. At a journalist's banquet in 1893, Hearn publicly admitted he had fabricated it. The Chicago City Council passed an official resolution on August 12, 1997, formally exonerating Catherine O'Leary and her cow, 104 years after the man who destroyed her reputation admitted publicly that he had made it up. The actual cause has never been officially determined. Catherine O'Leary was harassed until her death in 1895. The site of her barn is now the Chicago Fire Academy. A reporter admitted he made it up. The story stayed in textbooks for another century. The Chicago City Council voted to fix it in 1997. Not all the textbooks got the memo. Fact 12. The tunnel city built beneath itself. Here's what nobody taught you about what lies beneath Chicago. 350 feet below the streets, carved through Silurian dolomite bedrock, approximately 420 million years old, there are 109 miles of tunnels. The system is called the Tunnel and Reservoir Plan, TARP, managed by the Metropolitan Water Reclamation District of Greater Chicago. Construction began in 1975. The tunnel portion was completed in 2006. 3 reservoir phases are still under construction. Total planned capacity, 17.5 billion gallons. The volume of rock removed was enough to fill Soldier Field approximately 20 times, according to TARP project documentation. These tunnels run directly beneath the Chicago River, the same river that was reversed in 1900, the same river where, in 1915, 844 people drowned before noon. The city built a second city beneath itself. It is still being built right now. Coming in at number 11, the three-legged thing in White County. On April 25, 1973, in Enfield, White County, Illinois, Henry McDaniel reported a creature attempting to force entry into his home at 9:30 in the evening. He described it as approximately 4 feet tall, with 3 legs, 2 short arms, grayish-pink skin, and large pinkish eyes. He retrieved a .22 caliber pistol and fired at close range. The rounds appeared to have no effect. Rick Rainbow, news director of radio station WWKI in Kokomo, Indiana, subsequently traveled to Enfield and reported personally observing a similar creature. Illinois State Police were dispatched to investigate and filed official incident reports. No explanation was produced. That is the real explanation. It is in the Illinois State Police record. A news director saw it on the record. State Police investigated. Nobody said what it was. That is still the official position. Fact 10. The thing from the Big Muddy. 2 months later, on June 25, 1973, 150 miles from White County in Murfreesboro, Jackson County, Randy Needham and Judy Johnson reported a large, white-haired creature near the Big Muddy River. Responding Murfreesboro Police Department officers, Jimmy Nash and Ron Brendel, filed official reports noting large, unidentified tracks and a strong, unpleasant odor. Workers at a traveling carnival camped nearby reported their animals were in extreme distress. The investigation file was never officially closed. The Southern Illinois newspaper covered the sightings across June and July 1973. No identification was made. 2 separate counties, 2 separate police departments, 2 separate official investigations. The same summer, neither explained. Illinois did not get an explanation for either one. Landing at number 9, the possession that got into the medical record. In 1877 and 1878, in Watseka, Iroquois County, Illinois, a 13-year-old girl named Mary Laurency Venom began experiencing trances and claiming to be the spirit of Mary Roth, a local girl who had died in 1865. Over approximately 3 months, the entity allegedly speaking through Venom correctly identified the Roth family's acquaintances, located objects never shown to Venom, and reproduced private family memories. The case was documented in full by Dr. E. Winchester Stevens in an 1887 monograph, published by the Religio-Philosophical Publishing House in Chicago under the title The Watseka Wonder. The American Society for Psychical Research subsequently compiled a full case file. The case is still cited in peer-reviewed psychology literature 145 years later. The Roth family never recanted. The American Society for Psychical Research investigated. A physician published a monograph. The explanation is not in the monograph because no explanation was found. At number 8, the gravedigger who did not quite leave. The Peoria State Hospital, originally the Illinois Asylum for the Incurable Insane, opened in 1902 in Bartonville, Peoria County, on a campus of 64 buildings. At peak capacity, it held approximately 2,800 patients. Among them was a man referred to in official records only as a bookbinder, Old Book. His real name was never recorded. For decades, Old Book served as the de facto gravedigger of the hospital cemetery, burying his fellow patients in numbered plots. When he died, Hospital Superintendent Dr. George A. Zeller wrote in his 1935 memoir, Befriending the Bereft, that all attendees observed an apparition at the graveside that wept and then dissolved. More than 10,000 patients died at Peoria State Hospital. Many burial records were never preserved. The numbered graves are still in the ground tonight. A man dug graves for his fellow patients for decades. He was never given a name, only a job title. The superintendent described what he saw. The explanation is still not there. Coming in at number 7, the other Ozarks. I have been to the Shawnee Hills in southern Illinois, and I still could not fully account for what I was looking at. The ridge lines and bluffs and biological density belong to a different state entirely. The Shawnee National Forest covers 289,000 acres across 9 counties. The Illinois Natural History Survey documents approximately 1,200 plant species in the region. Roughly 40% of Illinois' total plant diversity concentrated in less than 4% of its land area. The U.S. Forest Service has documented it as a convergence zone of northern deciduous, southern coastal plain, and eastern bottomland forest types. A biodiversity anomaly that exists because this portion of Illinois was not glaciated like the rest of the state. Southern Illinois has been trying to tell you something for the entire length of this video. If you told someone there was an Ozark-style landscape in Illinois, they would not believe you. It is there. Almost nobody goes. Fact 6, the city nobody knew was there. Here's what Hollywood never told you about the greatest pre-Columbian civilization north of Mexico. It was in Collinsville, Madison County, Illinois, 2 miles east of St. Louis. At its documented peak between 1050 and 1150 AD, Cahokia's population is estimated by the Illinois State Archaeological Survey and Washington University in St. Louis at between 10,000 and 20,000 people, larger than the city of London at the same historical moment. The settlement covered approximately 6 square miles and included over 120 earthen mounds built entirely by hand, without wheeled vehicles, metal tools, or draft animals. Monk's Mound stands 100 feet tall with a base of approximately 1,037 feet by 790 feet, larger at the base than the Great Pyramid of Giza. The city was abandoned around 1300 to 1400 AD. UNESCO named it a World Heritage Site in 1982. Excavation is ongoing tonight. A city larger than medieval London was built, flourished, and abandoned 2 miles from where St. Louis now stands. The mound is there tonight. You can walk up it. At number 5, 92 children and 3 nuns. On December 1st, 1958, at 909 North Avers Avenue in Chicago, the Our Lady of the Angels School caught fire at approximately 2:30 in the afternoon. The first general alarm was received by the Chicago Fire Department at 2:42, 12 minutes after students had already identified the emergency. Fire Station 85 was 162 feet from the school entrance. 92 students and 3 nuns died. 87 more children were severely burned. The Cook County Fire Marshal ruled the cause officially undetermined. The National Fire Protection Association revised its Life Safety Code, NFPA 101, in direct response, as documented in the association's historical records. No criminal conviction was ever entered. Illinois has buried its own people in disasters measured in minutes. The fire lasted 20 minutes. The children were gone before the alarm reached the station. The story we are saving for last also took 20 minutes, except that one happened in a river 20 feet deep, 20 feet from a dock. The ship never moved. We're almost there. Landing at number 4, the photograph nobody has explained in 30 years. Bachelor's Grove Cemetery in Bremen Township, Midlothian, Cook County, was established around 1844. In 1991, researcher Jude Huff Felds photographed what appears to be a translucent female figure in period clothing, seated on a gravestone during a Ghost Research Society investigation, using an infrared camera in daylight. Photographic analysts who have examined the image have produced no confirmed conventional artifact explanation. The Ghost Research Society, headquartered in Oak Lawn, Illinois, has conducted over 100 documented investigations at the site. The cemetery was added to the National Register of Historic Places in 2013 under reference number 13,248. The cemetery is there tonight. The National Register listing is current. The photograph has not been explained. The photograph was taken in 1991. The National Register listed the cemetery in 2013. Nobody has explained the photograph. Cook County manages it now. Fact 3, absolutely fireproof. The Iroquois Theater opened on November 23, 1903, on Randolph Street in Chicago. Its promotional materials described it as absolutely fireproof. It was 37 days old on December 30th when approximately 1,900 people, predominantly women and children on a school holiday, attended a matinee performance of Mr. Bluebeard. A stage spotlight ignited a muslin drape. The fire safety curtain jammed. Stagehands opened a rear door and created a fireball that rolled into the auditorium. Multiple emergency exits were equipped with European bascule locks. Audiences did not know how to operate. In approximately 15 minutes, 602 people died. The deadliest single-building fire in American history, as documented in the Cook County Coroner's Inquest of 1904. No criminal charges resulted in conviction. The building became the Oriental Theater, now the James M. Nederlander Theater, which still hosts performances at the same address tonight. 602 people died in a building sold to them as fireproof. In 12 years, Chicago would lose nearly a third more. In a river. Before noon, in water 20 feet deep. The ship never moved a single inch. That story is next, at number 2, the day they turned the river around. On January 1900, the city of Chicago reversed the direction of a river. The Chicago River had been flowing toward Lake Michigan for approximately 14,000 years since the last ice age. The Metropolitan Sanitary District permanently redirected it away from the lake and toward the Illinois and Michigan Canal system. The project, documented by the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers, required excavation of 29.7 million cubic yards of earth and rock, the largest earth-moving operation in American history to that date, exceeding the first phase of Panama Canal excavation. Cost, $33.5 million. Chicago's typhoid death rate dropped by approximately 50% in the following decade. Multiple downstream states sued. The Supreme Court ruled in Illinois' favor. The Chicago River has been flowing in reverse for 124 years. It is flowing backward tonight. On January 900, Illinois reversed the direction of a river to protect its people from dying in the water. On July 24, 1915, in that same reversed river, Chicago lost 844 people before noon. The water was 20 feet deep. The dock was 20 feet away. The ship never moved. That is the last fact, and you are not ready. And finally, number 1, the ship that never moved. The SS Eastland was launched in 1903, the same year as the Iroquois Theater. It was 275 feet long, operated by the St. Joseph Chicago Steamship Company on the Chicago to Michigan City route, and licensed to carry 2,500 passengers. Had a documented history of instability. Between 1904 and 1915, at least 5 separate listing incidents were reported to the Steamboat Inspection Service. The service continued to certify the vessel as seaworthy. Then, Congress passed the La Follette Seamen's Act of 1915, a direct response to the Titanic requiring additional lifeboats and life-saving equipment on passenger vessels. The St. Joseph Chicago Steamship Company complied. They added lifeboats and life preservers to the Eastland. The additional equipment was installed high on the ship's structure, on a vessel already documented as dangerously top-heavy. The federal safety law passed in response to the Titanic made the Eastland more dangerous. That fact is in the investigative record. July 24, 1915 was a Tuesday. The Western Electric Company had organized its 5th annual employee picnic to Michigan City, Indiana, for approximately 7,000 workers from its Hawthorne Works plant in Cicero. The workers were predominantly Czech-Bohemian immigrants, families, people who had built lives on these streets, going to a company picnic on a summer morning. 5 chartered ships were docked along the south bank of the Chicago River between Clark and LaSalle streets. The Eastland was docked first. By 7:10 in the morning, the gangplank was closed with 2,572 passengers aboard. By 7:18, the crew noticed a port list and began pumping ballast water. By 7:23, the list had reached 10 degrees. By 7:28, it accelerated. Deck furniture shifted. Water entered portholes. At 7:30, the Eastland rolled completely onto its port side. The water at the Clark Street Wharf was between 18 and 20 feet deep. The top deck was partially above the surface. The ship was never more than 20 feet from the dock. It had not moved an inch from its mooring position. 844 people died. 835 passengers, 4 crew, 5 rescuers. Most drowned in the enclosed lower decks. 22 entire families were killed. Not a single member survived. The youngest victim was 2 years old. The oldest was 71. For comparison, approximately 699 American citizens died in the Titanic sinking. The Eastland killed 145 more Americans in 20 minutes in a river in the middle of a major American city before most people had finished their breakfast. Captain Harry Pedersen was arrested. Company officers were indicted. In 1935, U.S. District Court Judge Walter C. Lindley ruled that primary responsibility lay with the Federal Steamboat Inspection Service, which had certified a vessel it knew was unstable. All criminal charges against company officials were eventually dismissed or acquitted. Civil damages to victims' families were minimal. The SS Eastland was refloated, converted into a naval training vessel, and scrapped in 1947. I have read every documented account of that morning, the National Archives records, the Eastland Disaster Historical Society's documentation, J. Bonansinga's full reconstruction of the disaster, the Chicago History Museum's permanent exhibition, and I cannot tell you why not one person who made those decisions went to prison. The record gives you the ruling. It does not give you the reason. It has not given 844 families an answer in 110 years. A historical marker sits on the Chicago River Walk near the Clark Street Bridge. Thousands of people run past it every morning above 109 miles of tunnels beside a river that has been flowing backward for 124 years in a state that was never flat, never quiet, and never properly found. The marker is there tonight. 844 names belong on it. Most people don't know any of them.